Howdy, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Latham, and today we're going to be talking about a paper titled Black Garlic Melanoidins Prevent Obesity, Reduce Serum LPS Levels, and Modulate the Gut Microbiota Composition in High-Fat Diet-Induced Obese Mice. And the mice type were C57BL/6J. So first off, this is out of the lab group of Min Zhang at the Taiping Agricultural University. It's a pretty legit scientist, really legit university. Apparently it's actually the oldest university in all of China. And it was published in Food and Function, which has an impact factor of 4. Impact factor is just the way that we measure how meaningful a journal is, what its penetration is, and for comparison, Nature is 43. So 4 isn't like, it's not Nature, it's not science, but it's not, dry university. So going forward, we know that we're looking at a reputable paper and a reputable lab group. So let's start with the very basics. What is a melanoidin? Basically, it's any compound that's produced during the Maillard reaction. And you're like, what's the Maillard reaction? Well, the Maillard reaction is basically the roasting process. So you see that with steaks, beer, coffee, just like really all the delicious things. So the melanoidins that are made in black garlic are in good company. And what's black garlic? Black garlic is aged garlic. You can think of it as slow roasted under very specific temperature and humidity. Some people argue that it's also a fermentative process, meaning that it's like fermentation, that microorganisms are involved. I'm not so sure, but we're going to get into that a lot more later, the controversial world of black garlic production. So these melanoidins, or MLDs, possess prebiotic properties. So it's a prebiotic. So you've probably heard of a probiotic. A probiotic is a living microorganism that you ingest for a whole multitude of benefits. A prebiotic is what the microorganisms eat. So it's food for the bacteria that live inside of your small and large intestine. Pretty cool stuff. So for this reason, they wanted to look and see specifically what these MLDs had an effect on body weight, glucose intolerance, and then they looked at fecal SCFAs. Those are volatile fatty acids, basically. So that's like the fuel for the gut. And then they looked at the changes in the whole microbial population of the guts of these fat little mice. And what they found was really, really cool. One thing that cracks me up about mice studies, I'm not like a mouse expert, and you do have to qualify all the results that this was done in mice, it wasn't done in humans. But like the technical term for what you feed mice in these studies is chow. So it always amuses me when I see a paper and they refer to normal chow, high fat chow, treatment chow. And so they had, these mice were divided into 6 groups, n equals 10, so a pretty robust study. And then they fed them normal chow, normal diet chow, and then they had varying levels of fat in the diet, so 45 up to 45% fat. And then they either fed them a low dose of the melanoidins from the black garlic, medium, and then high. And then they used what's called a positive control, where they fed them a compound that blocked fat absorption in the small and large intestine. So they basically fed them something that they knew would be anti-obesity to compare with the treatments. Then they also had a negative control where they didn't feed them any melanoidins, and then they just fed them like a high-fat diet, basically. So that's always like fun to know when there's like a negative and a positive control, because it makes your results a lot more robust. And what did they find? So basically, long story short, the mice that were fed higher levels of melanoidins, it was a linear response, more closely resembled the mice that either were the positive control, so they were fed a compound that blocked the fat absorption, or the control. So basically that relates back to the title of the paper, which was basically that these black garlic melanoidins prevent obesity. Pretty cool stuff, right? And the way that it did this is really interesting. They actually have a lot of theories on why they did this. One, it increased glucose tolerance. So what that means basically is it made them less diabetic. So when you're diabetic, all the insulin in your body just doesn't do a whole lot. And so eventually your system, it causes this whole like cascade of effects. But these mice were very tolerant to glucose. It became more tolerant to glucose, meaning that their metabolism was just working a little bit better. It also, this is like the best way to say pooping ever, but promoted GI emptying and motility. So that's the term for that is peristalsis. It's the movement of the gut. So something about the black garlic, melanoidin extract, increased GI emptying and motility. More pooping. What could it mean? Yeah. Also, and this is super fun for me, it has a positive influence on the microbial community. So what they saw was an increase in more friendly microbes, like our good friend Lactobacillus, who you may know from Activia yogurt and sauerkraut, and most probiotics. So it's considered a beneficial microbe. So in the mice that were fed the black garlic extracts, there was significantly more Lactobacillus than in the control and the high-fat diet. Good stuff. This led to a whole cascade of effects, including metrics for immune system, anti-inflammatory, gut wall health, energy metabolism, and increased satiation. What does that mean? You're pooping more and you're eating less. Less in, more out. No, that's an oversimplification. But you're probably thinking, how does this relate to human health? So it's hard to say 100%. There are a lot of studies showing the benefits of black garlic in humans when it comes to cancer research. There's not a whole lot when it comes to its anti-obesity effects, let alone how that relates to the gut microbiota. I think those studies are coming in like the next couple of years because there's kind of an order to things. First, you just, have a hypothesis, and then you tend to go what's known as in vitro, which is like in test tubes, and then you have mice. And then sometimes you can upgrade to an even larger animal, and then you can kind of justify human studies. So, big picture, people who experience metabolic syndrome and have a higher fat diet tend to have reduction in the gut bacteria. The black garlic extract that they studied, the melanoidins, reverse some of these negative effects by acting as a prebiotic and increasing diversity, which had that whole cascade of effects that I talked about. So anti-inflammatory, energy metabolism, increased satiation, proper motility of your gut. And I've tried to back calculate the equivalent dose that they fed in mice and humans, but I couldn't find any data on the percentage of melanoidins in black garlic, unfortunately. But in general, what is recognized as a therapeutic dose is taking a couple cloves a day. So if you are interested in experimenting on yourself and having an N=1, please be diligent on your taking notes and let me know how it affects you. And please let me know if you have any questions.